it's now time for Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Rupert's Royal Roundup.
Hey, good morning, Rupert.
Good morning, David. Good morning, Renee.
I can't stop myself. I just can't. I can't. I've tried.
Well, I'm here obviously to add a bit of levity to proceeding. Is that the point? I don't know, but anyway.
Yes. So obviously lots to talk about, but the big story, I suppose, is the King in Germany.
Yeah, I think we a couple of days since it's finished, and I think people will be reflecting on how did it go, not only with the sort of perceptions in this country, but perhaps how does it play out in Germany? Well, the consensus is that what he did in the two-day visit went down extremely well with the German population, the way it was managed, what he did. Obviously, he is a person who speaks German, so he does immediately endear himself to the population, particularly when he was speaking to the Bundestag, and great swathes of his speech were in German. He's been there many times before, but obviously the significance of this particular visit was that it was his first as king, and there's pressure on him to get it right. And obviously, from a political point of view, it seemed to be all right. But again, you know, the people saying, well, it was heavy on the environmental issues, things that he was passionate about, but he didn't actually have to go around sort of proselytizing. He just, by turning up at various events that were clearly reflecting his interests, that was the way and I think we can see that as a template. He will go and do things that he wants to do rather than be pointed in a direction that he perhaps doesn't want to go in when he makes these sort of visits.
I'm really pleased for him, actually, and I think it shows the depth of the character, the depth of the man there. And as you rightly say, of course, many of his family are actually German.
Yeah, great. Well, that's the point. Through Prince Philip, members, lots of cousins over there. So not only has he made official visits before, but many private visits to see members of his family. So, and he's very aware of his family's links with Germany. Now, of course, if you go back to the First World War, they changed their name from Saxe-Coburg to the House of Windsor because of obviously the perceptions, you know, with what happened in the First World War, and Kaiser, who was a cousin, of course. But it does show that they are very aware of their links. And obviously now, with the sort of post-Brexit era and everything, Germany is still seen as a hugely important trading partner, and the relationship is important to be continuing, particularly with some of the other stuff that's going on around the world. We need a sort of, I suppose, Britain will say we need a strong Europe, and we need to be very much part of that in terms of, you know, the political situation, whether it be dealing with Ukraine, Russia, China, you name it. A strong Britain and Germany axis does help that cause.
Well, absolutely. And of course, we want to be friends and allies with our European partners, and that is different from leaving the EU. We're just looking at the pictures there. I mean, it looks like they really did afford a true hospitality to the King and the Queen Consort.
Yes, they did. And the president was there of Germany was there practically the whole step of the way. And, you know, obviously, when they went to Hamburg, there was lots of symbolism there, because obviously that country was bombed, that town and city was bombed horrendously in the Second World War. I think 40,000 civilians were killed within a week during the bombing of Hamburg. So there was lots of sort of symbolism in terms of sort of, again, trying to unite and repair the damage, I suppose, to many families that still it will feel raw. So I think there was a lot going on behind the scenes from a sort of soft political way, and sort of repairing Hamburg, an important trading city. And I think, again, there was lots of overt symbolism over his trip to Hamburg.
Yeah, and just obviously he missed out on the trip to France. France would have been the first royal visit for him as monarch.
Yes, and I suppose that will happen again. There was quite a good picture I saw of some unions that put this, and sorry, Charles, something like that they put up. There was this picture pointing towards Calais, Dover, I think, from Calais, which was quite an amusing. But actually, yes, and but President Macron, it was humiliating that he felt he couldn't invite the King there because of the optics of what was going on in his country. And I think the King would have been hugely disappointed that he couldn't go. But he would have been fully understanding that if the president rings and says, well, I can't have you here, what can you do? Frustrating though it may have been. But to go to Germany first, actually, probably from a family point of view, that might feel, and I've read members saying of his family saying that actually he was secretly very happy that actually Germany did prove to be his first state visit. And again, I think it's very important to look at the way it will be, other state visits will be conducted and how much he seemed to enjoy it. He can now sort of do his own thing now, because before, when the Queen was alive, he was always saying, right, it's the Queen's show and I'll just try not to rock the boat. Occasionally, of course, he did, but now it's his show. He wants to make sure that that over the next few years he can make a quiet impact on the global stage.
Yeah, I'm very fortuitous in some ways that it was Germany first. Of course, not long to go until the coronation. We're learning more and more about this. This morning I was reading about rake seating being used because there are thoughts there won't be large enough crowds. I simply don't buy that. I think there'll be huge crowds for the coronation. But also there was lots of talk about, I think the types and colours of robes that some people will be wearing. Is this right?
Well, the garbs are very important to some people. So I think the dress that people will be wearing will be part of it. I think when you come to the crowds, I remember talking to some people involved in the Platinum Jubilee, and they were then ultimately, they sort of did contingency plans, but they actually ended up being overwhelmed by the numbers because they, and I remember thinking, goodness me, we didn't anticipate that many people, because there was a feeling, why would people come down? Is it going to resonate with the public? As it eventually it did, and the crowds were enormous in London through the Platinum Jubilee weekend. So again, I suppose organisers are trying to be cautious because they don't want to assume people will turn up to the coronation, because it's not actually cheap now to go to London, probably, if you're going to stay and make a weekend of it. Look, I know people who are flying over from overseas. I know a friend of mine's got some people coming over from Australia to come to the coronation. So there are people coming from overseas, but I don't think they want to assume that it will be a sort of sellout in inverted commas. So they will be thinking, right, all levels of numbers will be sort of allocated and worked out, sort of best case scenario, worst case scenario, whichever way you look at it.
And of course it's highly weather dependent as well. Rupert, do you know what you're doing for the coronation? Will you be on parade?
Everyone asks me. I think it's up to the powers that be within this organisation to point me in whichever direction they want me to go in.
So the reason that I'm asking is Dr. Rennie and I would really like front row seats with you, if that's possible.
Well, I have no influence. So I'm sorry to the pair of you, but I no doubt will be talking to you at some stage. From where, I know not.
Well, I think
we are working on it.
Well, I was about to say, I think we're actually on air for the coronation, so that's very exciting, actually, to really have a bird's eye view of what's going on in this wonderful city.
Well, then we may be talking quite a lot. The following day of the coronation, I've got to hot-foot it to Badminton for the cross-country
poor
day.
thing, Rupert.
Oh, Rupert, it's such a tough life. I don't know how you do it, quite frankly.
Well, cross-country day, it's been in my life since I was a little boy. It means a lot to me to go to there. And I know badminton was a very important stepping stone for the Queen. Used to go a lot. And obviously the Princess Royal was a regular competitor there, as indeed is her daughter Zara, although she's not competing for obvious reasons there this year.
I might come with you, Rupert.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to it. I'll see what I can do.
He's utterly speechless.
Well, I don't know how to take that.
No, well, quite, Rupert, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. That's Rupert Bell there, who's Talk Radio's royal correspondent.